I've just watched for the 5th time Steven Spielberg's sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, with Harrison Ford reprising his role. This time Kate Capshaw plays the love and adventure interest. Now, I first saw this at the cinema in 1984. I don't think I saw it at a cinema with Dolby Stereo, but a lot of people probably did at Premiere House cinemas, and I'm not sure if there were 70mm blow-ups, but if there were, that would have been 6-track magnetic sound, so I can imagine how impressive this would have been in 6-track mag. Would have been fabulous and added so much to it. Well, on this disc it's got Dolby Atmos, and it's got the scope ratio, great image quality, 2.40 to 1 approximately, and the surround sound is wonderful. I didn't have it up as loud as I should, but we've got people staying at the moment and I didn't feel that I wanted to keep them up all night, so I thought I'd be a little kind. So at some point I'm going to have to watch this again and really watch it properly and get into it thoroughly. When I first saw it in 1984, I didn't like it much. I tried it again, I didn't like it much. I've never liked it, but I didn't actually like it much this time. But I've gone through it again, bits of it, chapter through it, to get some shots for this video so I can give you an idea of what it looks like in here on my system in our home cinema, and I think I'm liking it more the more I look at it. The mine chase is sensational. The opening sequence, the musical, I didn't like that when I was young, but now I can see what they were going for, and I thoroughly enjoy that. So there are elements of this that I really like, and I think as time goes on now I will get into it more. And indeed, some people, quite a lot of people, tell me this is their favourite of the whole Indiana Jones series. So there's much to like about this film, and when you look at the image quality on this and the sound, it is beautiful to look at. But I feel that Raiders of the Lost Ark looks better, at least it does in here. It's marginal, but this is a more colourful film. And the things that I didn't like about this were that it didn't have the magic of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was sort of those religious Bible elements, I suppose, and that held something for me in 1981, and of course it was completely lacking for this. And it's interesting that for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, they brought all those elements back. The magic was back and the sort of Bible elements were there. So I think this was a bit of a misstep, but a lot of people will disagree with me, and I'm beginning to disagree with myself now. So I'm going to watch this again, and I think I will enjoy this more than I ever have when I watch it for the 6th time. But a few more words about the image quality, because it is very sharp. Remember, you're looking directly at the original negative, so possibly some of you will think there's not enough film grain, it's too clean, but I'm not sure. I think, well, we've never actually seen an original negative up close ourselves or been able to photograph it, so I think it's likely that this is roughly as good as the original negative looks. And remember, a master print was having to come from the negative to a positive print, and of course that would introduce a first layer of film grain or positive film grain in addition to the negative. So maybe even though I was looking at master prints most of the time when I was seeing films, this is possibly better in some respects than the master print. But the result of that is what looked sensational on a big screen in a cinema back in '84 and probably every year since. This is too good in some respects, and so when you're looking at some of the matte paintings, which were always so impressive, when you've got the live action going into the matte and you can't see the join in this, you can sometimes tell that you're looking at a matte. So some of the magic there is lost a little, but you've got to appreciate the artistry. Now, this is a film I haven't really had on home video. There were Super 8 scope feature releases of it, but I never sought one of those prints. I never put my name down for one, and so I never got one. Now, it was in the special, it was a 4-tape pack because they had the making of the Raiders of the Lost Ark on an extra VHS tape, but in this 4-pack VHS, this was actually my father-in-law's, and when he died we couldn't let it go to the landfill, so we brought it home. And I did actually watch this tape again. It's the widescreen, so although it's not the whole 2.40 to 1 ratio, it's about 2.10 to 1, I suppose, something like that. I had to crop a bit of the sides for the square televisions at the time, and I didn't enjoy it watching on this. But now that I've got the UHD disc, I think that's going to make one heck of a difference when I watch it again. I mentioned the mine chase, and there's detail of this in the Art of Special Effects, the Industrial Light and Magic 10th Anniversary book by Thomas G. Smith, and I remember reading about that. I've looked at it several times. It was shot in VistaVision because of the special effects shots. They had to send a camera down a miniature tunnel to get those shots of it steaming through or speeding through the tunnel, and that was done with a standard stills Nikon SLR camera, and they adapted it to go 8 sprockets across for the VistaVision and a frame every second or so, and that was how they did the special effects going through the mine shaft. It's really interesting to read how these conventional effects were done. It was artistry, and that's something we've lost with doing everything in a computer. And I think that's part of the reason why things look more believable then, even though we knew they were special effects. But there are some very good CGI, or digital effects as they're called. But I prefer looking at something with the artistry of how things were done. And there's plenty of that in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I think I can say that it's a wonderful film. It's just one that up to now I haven't particularly liked. And when I think back to that sequence with the banquet or the dinner sequence, where they're producing a snake that they cut open that's got, well, it must be eels in there and monkey brains, that really did not appeal to me whatsoever. So that probably had an effect. And also when they're at the Temple of Doom and there's going to be that human sacrifice, and I just didn't like that. I thought that was a bit beyond what Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark was, and that was why I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark. I didn't like this much, and it's interesting that as a result of Temple of Doom at the time in '84, I didn't in 1989 go to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade at the cinema. However, I did see that on VHS. Actually, my parents bought the VHS, the pan and scan, said, "John, you've got to have a look at this. I think you'll love it." And I thought, really? After Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? And even on the VHS, I thought, this is magic. And so, shortly after I got the Super 8 feature of Raiders of the Lost Ark, there were only 2 that came into the UK at the time, and I got one of the first 2. The same happened with The Last Crusade, and so my first real screening or viewing of Last Crusade was in fact the Super 8 print that I have to this day, and it is a beautiful print. So if I review the 4K UHD of Last Crusade, I dare say I'll get some shots of that Super 8 print on screen. Really is magic in more ways than one, because not only have you got the magical story, a magical film, you've got it on Super 8 film, and there's just something magic about Super 8. So there aren't really any extras on this. I presume if you got the Steelbook there was a Blu-ray in there and it probably came with all the extras. So you've just got the teaser trailer and the trailer. So nothing much to get your teeth into in terms of documentaries on how this was made. But the running time of the main film is just under 2 hours. I think that's just about right. Great sequences in it. I'm growing to like the film. I think I will like it almost as much as some of you who love it in the end, so I've just got to get that 6th screening sometime. Maybe I'll do Raiders, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and then Last Crusade, all in a trilogy, and maybe all 5 of them actually, because I do enjoy them all. Just Temple of Doom is my least favourite, but it's still highly recommended, this one, if you haven't already got it. So I got it in the 3 for £50 deal at HMV, and I'll still recommend it, but I think you've got to be careful. There are some, well, there's some bits that turn your stomach perhaps, or they do mine, and there's 1 or 2 sequences that maybe are a bit brutal or gruesome that you might not like. But anyway, I've done this one again after just running it in here. It's getting to be quite a thing now, but I rather like doing that. Everything's fresh in my mind and I can just waffle quickly and get them done. Right, enough from me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, perhaps subscribe if you haven't already, and until the next one, bye bye for now.